Megan's got a Band-Aid on.
29.
I won the fight.
What did you do?
You should see the other
Did you
guy.
win?
Yeah, I won.
All right.
See the other guy.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick before we start, we need to say who's gonna be up on stage for graduation,
Just say it.
or we gotta figure it out.
Well, where thought we did.
Just decide amongst yourselves.
We couldn't remember who's.
Tim has a council. You and I
Okay,
are.
2 volunteers.
I'll do it.
Kids are graduating.
We usually have 2.
I know.
Okay.
I can only do one of them.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We got one. We need another one.
I couldn't sit in one chair, stand up, give them the thing, run over the other end, sit down, stand back up, shake hands. But
That would-
I'm not in that good a shape. You might have to have some oxygen.
Okay.
Anybody else hasn't done it before? Want to do it?
We called dibs for next year, but whatever.
Gary?
We got to be there anyhow.
Oh, he's waiting.
Oh.
We may have to have a special board meeting next year. Just get you one
You
idea.
have to draw
There
it.
might have to be 3 of us up
I'm
there.
not doing it next year, so don't worry about it.
Eric, when is graduation?
This weekend.
I thought I was gonna hit Denver's name back there.
Mother's Day.
This Sunday?
Yes.
I got cows.
May.
Mother's
What
Day.
excuse is that?
Mother's Day.
I have
I've
Mother's
got
Day
cows
too.
because I got shoes already on that deal. For AI.
I say, I'm so far behind on
I'll
spring.
do
it's not good.
All right.
I'll do it 2 years in a row.
Tim and Tim.
It's him and
There you
Tim.
go.
That's weird.
We'll call the meeting to order. We need approval of the agenda.
Anything to add?
Nope.
Oh, it's a special one. You can't add anything.
Mm-mm.
I move that we approve the agenda as provided.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All opposed? 24-232 open forum.
No one.
We will move on. 24-233. Next steps in rebuilding project, SPT Architects, McCown Gordon Construction.
That's you guys.
That's us. We'll take it away. All right. As discussed at our last appearance in a board meeting, we advised we were going to come back tonight and present the bid results for the demo package. And I believe you guys have the slides that were included in your board packet. Eric's also got this up on the screen, and we'll just kind of walk through this. Please feel free to interrupt if you have any questions. Should be a pretty comprehensive approach here. So, Eric, if you want to go to the next slide, the next page. We started with kind of 2 separate bid scopes. One is for the actual demolition of the project, demolition of the fire damaged building, the buffer zone, as well as backfilling of the hole where the foundation and basements are, at least to get that out, so it's not leaving a hole, making that excavation safe so that it can sit until the rebuilding starts, wherever that might be. And then this would also include cutting, capping of power, water, sewer, electrical connections, whatever needs to happen there. And then we've also included the salvaging of the terracotta at the main entryway. We did get alternative bids for the select demo in the existing gym and the classrooms that are towards the front of that main gym area. And then also alternate for the commons area demolition. And we'll kind of advise on what a recommended approach would be to handle those 2 things. So the second part of this is an environmental monitoring component. So as the building, what you're going to see here when we get to the build leveling, as the building is coming down virtually as it is in place, we want to make sure that that demolition is containing any of the hazardous materials that are currently in place in there. We want to make sure that they're not spreading beyond the construction and demolition zone. So the approach with the environmental monitoring here is to monitor those activities, both on the site, within the debris field, working with the demolition contractor, and on the perimeter of that to ensure that that is still, maintaining in compliance. And that environmental monitoring company would have the ability to advise the demolition contractor if there's an issue and make recommended modifications to their approach so that they can keep that all contained. So really, this is about preventing any of that spread of ACM to anywhere other than where it needs to be. I do want to, there is one other part that wasn't included previously. We are recommending an air monitoring. This would be a kind of a sampling within the existing main gym that's to remain, to capture a baseline of what's the air quality within that space, both pre-construction, pre-demolition, and then post-construction, post-demolition activities. So the district would have a nice baseline of here's what that air quality within that space is before and after construction. I do want to remind everybody that we did have that previous hazardous material testing contract for Paradigm and Consulting that was approved at the last board meeting. Within that, there was a combustion byproduct testing. This is a smoke and soot sampling within that existing gym to figure out what's left in there and how that potentially needs to be addressed. So that's what's been included in there. Any questions on the scope so far?
Go back up to the top part. Alternative selective demo in existing gym and classroom. What's exactly classroom garbage? And what are we
If
doing?
you go just a couple pages, if you look at project phasing,
Are they in part of that phase 1 demolition, or are they in?
this would be in the structure to remain area. So, thanks, Eric. Yeah, the classrooms,
Would that be like a remodel type of thing? So?
correct. There is demolition that's scheduled to occur in there.
You're talking remodel demo.
Remodel demo. Yeah.
I thought you were knocking in front of our gym for a minute. Okay, that's all I need to make sure.
So we're using the term mass demolition to take down what's phase 1 and phase 2. So the kind of the north parts that are fire damaged and wanting to be removed. Selective demo is what would occur in the green and the pink. So structure to remain in the phase 3.
Okay.
Selective is like, we're not going in with a backhoe or a bulldozer or something. This is where you're being more exact. You're being selective over what are the components that need to be demolished.
Okay.
Okay, we did receive 6 bids in total for the demolition package. We've condensed this down to 3 companies, 4 bids, essentially. We did get some local participation. I do want to just remind the board, this is not your typical go knock down a barn kind of approach. Because of the existing requirements, this is specialized care, takes specialized equipment, specialized insurance, that type of thing that I believe was reflected in the bids that we got. We did not exclude anyone from bidding on this. I want to be clear, we did not exclude anyone from bidding on this. We had, like I said, we had local participation. There were some that bid partial scopes. Others saw the package and said, this really isn't for us, and elected not to respond, which is just fine. This isn't their only opportunity, their only opportunity to respond. On the environmental monitoring, we did receive 3 bids for that one, and we're bringing the one that's recommended based on experience. This is where things really get critical and where you want to have a qualified firm do this approach. Okay, I realize this is a little bit small to read, so Eric, what I might have you do is zoom in to just talk about the base bid portion at the very top so everybody can see that. We did, like I said, we did receive 6 bids. We've condensed this down into three companies that are providing qualified and the lowest costs and most responsible. We received Spiritas Worldwide, Hess Services, and they had 2 different approaches to this, and then G&G Demo. So Spiritas, Hess Demo, or Hess Services, and then G&G, the ones that say wet demo at the top, those are all essentially the same scope, apples to apples. In other words, they have the same approach to tearing down the building. The alternative for Hess, demo after abatement, that is assuming they can go into the building, remove the asbestos, and then tear the building down in a different way. All of these are acceptable methods to do that. What is interesting here is Hess, they partnered with a large national company, and so there was a pretty high price tag. But I included that in there as that was one of the 3 lowest wet demo bids that we received. So we have a range from essentially 986, right under $1 million, up to almost $4 million, depending on the outfits. So we elected to bring these ones to the table. So I do want to, we'll get into all these numbers below and what they mean. So don't be scared at this point, because not all of this scope is just for the demolition of the building. And I think you'll see when we get to analyzing that that's not really too far off from where the insurance company left it, based on the other scope. What the other scope is that's making up the numbers at the bottom of the sheet is the additional scope that I don't believe was contemplated in the last look that you guys have seen.
The demo after the abatement, I'm assuming we would have to hire somebody to come in and do the abatement.
We expected them to handle all that approach, which they had included within that price.
So that 733 includes them coming in and doing the abatement.
Correct. Now, when we look at this, you have to take into account all of the things, not just the
sure.
bottom, or not just the top line. So,
Yeah,
end of the day, they're
I
not
just
the
wanted
most
to know if
competitive.
we'd have to figure out somebody else to come in and do it,
Right.
or if
Yeah.
they were going to do it.
We communicated that they needed to be responsible for taking care of that. Other questions
So
before?
they're gonna demo it, or these plans is demo the building, totally knock it down, it'd be a big pile. Then they're gonna sort through it, find the hazardous waste, or is all of it going to a approved landfill?
Unless they can definitively identify that whatever comes out of that pile does not have asbestos in it, it's going to have to go to Garden City. So these folks are responsible for determining what can go to a local landfill and what needs to be going to an asbestos landfill, is what I would call it, but certified landfill
So
that's able to withhold that waste.
they'll have to piecemeal it when they start trying to remove it then.
They have that opportunity to if they would like. But that is their responsibility to take care of that.
Stack here, stack there.
Possibly, it's very possible that they could have sorting piles that they're working out of. Anywhere you cut it, they've got to get rid of it.
It's a package deal.
It's a package deal.
And if they wanna save the brick in one pile and haul it to their
Crush
location,
it,
and they
whatever
do
they wanna
that, and they
do,
haul the
that's-
contaminated stuff off, and
That's right.
they can counter whatever they want out of that.
That's right.
Where are these companies located?
Spiritas is based out of Kansas City. We have a working relationship with Spiritas. They have performed this scope of work before and are qualified and capable. Same with G&G Dozer. We have experience with them as well. They're based out of Wichita. Hess is based out of Hayes. What is not included in this, in their demo after abatement number, is the time that it's going to take to abate the building. So what we're expecting there is probably several months worth of abatement or time that it's going to take to get the building analyzed to make sure that they can go into it, go actually do the removal of the abatement, then start the demolition process. So what the concern with that number is, and that approach, is that having that be able, that has a potential to impact the renovations that are going to take place in the gymnasium.
So
At the
a
end of
wet demo would be quicker.
but demo would be quicker at this stage,
5 months.
most likely. So for these purposes, at the bottom of the sheet, Spiritas is the group that appears to be the most responsible low bid. We'll run through this scope, and I'm going to give you kind of a detailed explanation of what each one of these numbers represents and what our approach should be moving forward with it. So the total for the entire package that we have is 1.1 million. Again, that is not total. That's the total that includes everything we talked about on the previous slide. So at the top we have 875,000, which is doing the mass demo of the fire damaged building, including the buffer zone, and that includes disposal, haul off, removal of all the materials. What Spiritas owes this group is a breakout between what's the mass demo for the fire damaged portion and what is the value of the buffer zone. The phase 2 is what we've called it here, or excuse me, phase 1, which is I think the 1948 building, weight room area, providing that value. The next one is the earthwork for it. This is again filling in the hole, getting the site sealed up after the demolition is complete. We have a recommendation on this one that we may want to include this number as an alternate cost, and we'll explain why that should be when we get to the schedule. But there may be some benefit to working through some of that approach as we get through that schedule and figure out how that lines up with the rebuild back and dirt work that would be required for building back the new gymnasium and new school in that area. As we move into the miscellaneous cost, we have an allowance at this point of $40,000 for the environmental monitoring, and then salvaging of the terracotta, that $27,000, that is actually included in the 875, 750 up above. We provided that as a breakout cost so everybody can see what the value of removing and salvaging that terracotta is. Moving down into the alternate section, we have demo of the south addition, which is about $58,000, and then the select demo of the existing gym and classrooms is another $37,000. So those two are listed in the alternates because they're bid as alternates, and we think we need to hold on those, just write those into what an agreement would be, and then be able to make that decision at some point in the future if that benefits the district.
On that number for the mass demo where you said that's included hauling to Garden City, but they don't know exactly if it all has to go there. I mean, say there's only a couple loads have to go there and most of it can go here. Does that change that number, or is that just, that's that? Yeah. Doesn't matter.
This would be a lump sum approach. They're taking the risk on it. The benefits, in our opinion, the benefit's not there for it. I think there's going to be a lot of intermingling of asbestos material because it is fairly spread throughout the facility, and it's going to be time consuming to sort that they may not get the benefit out of it from a cost saving standpoint anyway.
Is that the absolute max that it will be?
Say that, Matt?
That number, the 986 or 1.1, that's the absolute max that it will be.
Okay, I didn't hear anything.
No, that's
Yeah. So the approach here would be is there would be a lump sum contract for the scope that's been defined that would be written for 875, 750 to Spiritas with an alternate for the earthwork, an alternate for the demo of the south addition, and an alternate for the selective demo in the existing to remain gymnasium classrooms. So essentially the base bid is going to be 875, 750 with those three listed alternates that you'll have the opportunity to execute at some future time.
And if the dirt work's not that extensive, then it won't be that high.
Yes, there could be some efficiencies there if that works out the way we
Yeah.
think it could. And a lot of that has to do with timing.
Yes.
We want to be able to have that option so that you're not committed to spending $110,000 on something that we may not need all that dirt work or may not need that, just depending on, at this point, the schedule is looking like they're going to be there for a while to get that building hauled off. So that's where I think this timing becomes critical in understanding what flexibility do we have within that mass grading and earthwork package.
Okay, that stumbles into the next question. When can Spirits get started and how long will it take them?
All right, a couple slides back from here, we have a schedule that's been
So you wanna wait?
concluded. Oh, well, I think we're ready to go unless you guys are
Nope.
having more questions on the cost side of things.
I broke the pen.
So from a schedule standpoint, tentatively set up to start mobilizing mid to end of May. They're committed to being able to be on site mid-June to start at the separator, or for the buffer zone, I'll call it, at that weight room / wrestling room, or over wrestling room. So that would cut loose in the existing gymnasium, locker room area. But currently, right now, we're tracking, it says 6/10, so June 10th to start that portion of the work.
What are you talking about, the old wrestling room?
The weight room.
Oh, the
sorry.
weight room, okay.
Sorry, the weight room. So that would be the first area they would concentrate on, because we know that creates the buffer and then allows us access into the.
I thought you were going back to the wrestling room now. Why are we tearing it?
Yeah.
So if you look on this phasing and logistics plan, this would be the phase 1 area.
So it'd be the orange area would be first.
Yeah.
And then followed by the blue. And one of the reasons Barry was talking about efficiencies there is that site cleanup / rough grade right now, schedule, if everything goes well, is mid-September. So that's where it may make sense. By the time the bond would pass in August, then we would have all the other trade partners lined up. So we would have another earthwork contractor more than likely on board for that, to where we could get some efficiencies there and not have to have the demo guy worry about that hole, because we're still there doing demolition by the time earthwork would actually start. So
The biggest savings that we're trying to capture here is the amount of dirt work that it would take to make sure the excavation is safe and that it's sealed up so that it's shedding water. We don't want to spend that money sealing that up and reworking that to, putting it in place in order for that to come back out later if we don't have to. So that's where our recommendation is, wait on that. Let's figure out if that timeline still is applicable, and then we still have that opportunity to execute at some point in the future.
So you said 6/10 is about the soonest?
probably, yeah.
Is that for any of them or just for?
There were a couple, I think they were a little bit later than that, but that June timeframe was pretty typical for a lot of them that we had talked to. Yep. Yes, yeah, that would be when the rough grading would be done, but by that time, that's when we would commence with the new build back of the new school. It was that October timeframe.
You're saying we shouldn't fill in a hole to dig it right back out?
Not if we don't have to.
Yeah.
I did enough of that growing up. I don't need to dig holes and fill them back up.
So the total demo project is anticipated to be completed by October the 11th.
Correct.
That
Of the
would,
mass demo of the blue and orange. On that phasing plan, Terry.
When would the selective demo of the like locker rooms and all that can start as soon as it's separated?
Yeah, so the first thing we would do once that's separated is we go in and do the hazardous building material survey. So we'll take a bunch of samples of all those areas we know we're gonna touch now. And then our main focus, like we talked, is get that gym up and operational, get power to it. So we're showing that currently roughly the end of August is if everything shakes out well with the electrical equipment, with what we know you have on site versus also what PDC, who's the electrical engineer of record, has put together for this first package. So focus is get the gym back up and operational so you can use it, and then come back at a later date, probably in the next summer, to begin some of that work. Because some of that is if asbestos containing material is found, you can't do remediation while kids are using that facility. So there could be times earlier we can get in there, whether it's over a Christmas break or Thanksgiving break, things like that. So that's just some items we'll have to coordinate as we go, and we know more on that, find out more information for that. So does that, I know that's a long roundabout way to potentially answer your question. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So right now is focus on the gym, get it operational, focus making sure those restrooms in that south addition are usable as well, or can be used, so that when you're using the gymnasium, you have restrooms available.
When would you anticipate the latest that gym could be used?
So we're shooting for the end of August. That's probably the best case right now with what we know today.
So that's the next
That's the
schedule
next
that's included in the packet.
So we're not looking at.
Yeah.
You jumping ahead.
Do that.
You jumping ahead.
Yeah.
I gotta
That'd be
say, I
good
couldn't figure out why we had Reno
So-
gym stuff in here. Couldn't figure out where Reno was.
Jim Reno.
Yeah.
Welcome to the land
Don't
of
be
construction
fancy.
where we have all
We're
of
gonna have
our
some.
lingo.
I was confused when I seen it.
Eric, if you want to move to the next page, that's
Oh.
that gym renovation timeline. So at the bottom of this page is where the turnover would take place, and that's that last line that's currently identified, and this is based on the sequence of the other events leading up to that, which is where that comes in. Yep.
And if you're wondering what that highlight is in there, that's just tracking the new HVAC equipment. So just due to the lead times, we would have to come up with a way to temporarily heat that gymnasium, just for the time being until those permanent units show up, which we do all the time now with everything since the pandemic. Unfortunately it's become a typical construction thing, is to find temporarily heating and cooling units to make that happen.
Any questions on the schedule or the cost? I know those schedules are detailed and kind of clunky to read, so if you have any questions on them, please reach out and we can provide some clarity on what that actually means.
MVP abbreviated for
Main distribution panel for the electrical
breaker
system.
box.
Once the contract is recorded, when do you anticipate, I mean, I can look through all these dates and so on, but, when will they have the equipment set and start knocking the building down?
So for the mass demo, the middle of June is what we're anticipating currently.
Like I said, that's.
Had to ask it.
I like to hear verbal.
All right, we will move forward if there aren't any other questions on schedule or price. All right, the next page within this, we kept this as a placeholder. This is where we were at the last board meeting on the 16th. Again, this is the hazardous building material survey for primarily the gym and classrooms in the existing main gym area. This did include the combustion byproduct sampling. That's that soot and smoke sampling, so we can evaluate what's going on in that gym and then be prepared to address that accordingly. And we did have them include the project design and bid assistance for that scope of work around hazardous materials that could be found within that gym and classroom space. The next page here is recommended motions, and I do have an amendment to this. So the recommended motion here would be to accept the proposal for demolition for the existing fire damage building weight room area from Spiritas Worldwide, and that amount should be $875,750 with alternate 1 for earthwork, alternate 2 for the South Demo Edition, and alternate 3 for the selective demo.
Alternate 1 was dirt work, right?
Correct.
You go through that again.
Yep. There would be a base bid in the amount of $875,750. Alternate 1 for earthwork in the amount of $110,500. Alternate 2 would be demo of the South Addition for $57,750. And alternate 3, selective demolition in the existing gym and classrooms in the amount of $37,850.
Alternate 3, does that include the gym or anything, or the locker rooms, or just the classrooms and the?
This would be all the selective demolition that would take place in the locker rooms, the
Includes the locker.
gymnasium area, the classrooms, and any, if there is any in the South Commons. I don't recall at the moment.
Does that include the like junior high locker rooms underneath?
Correct.
Includes which one?
The locker rooms underneath the seating, the junior high.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if alternate 2 is done, which is demo on the south end down there, you said that alternate 3 was including renovation in that south end. Did I hear that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
if we have any scope that needs to be taken care of to make the gym occupiable, make the gym and commons area occupied, that's where that would come.
Because you might have to do the bathrooms and like fire code and
Any of
the
that,
commons
and
area.
Yeah, correct. I apologize, I don't recall exactly what that scope was off the top of my head, but That's what that would be for.
In the commons area, I thought Greg was just talking fire alarm mainly.
Right. Just
This would be, again, if there's anything that needs to be addressed there, and we can shore up what that scope actually looks like.
Did you work with these Spiritus before?
We have.
Are they pretty good about staying on time, keeping the game?
We have a guy in our company that all he does is monitor subcontractor financial stability, schedule performance, project management performance. So we reached out to him and said, hey, give us the scoop on Spiritus. Gave us the thumbs up on them. So their performance has been in the Kansas City area has been positive. They've done work in Great Bend before, so are familiar with the area. It's closer than.
Was that out loud?
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
I feel like I got hit with that one.
I've been in Eastern Kansas too.
I've heard Manhattan is Western Kansas before, so.
This is
started
what
fighting about
Spiritus, this is what they specialize in, is this remediation work and this heavy mass demo, as it relates to really hazardous materials. So they're used to also working around bodies of water, rivers, things like that. So that was one of the reasons we reached out to them as well.
well, it's nice that they would be willing to come all the way out here to help us with that.
On the range of bids, just out of curiosity, what was the highest and what was the lowest? I don't care about names. Just
Yeah,
price.
so the highest bid we got was just under $4 million.
Okay.
The lowest, and this is why why we do this bid leveling exercise, is because what appears to be the low bid on this sheet is not actually low bid. So that's why we go through this exercise.
Kevin on Zoom says, we're not showing renovations on the south addition as it is in compliance. We only need to do what is required for the fire alarm.
Thanks, Kevin. It's Kevin in chat.
That's what I said. On the selective demo, is that something that the Spiritus has to do, or can it be bid out again to more local guys if it's more in their wheelhouse? Is that an option, or?
I think the problem with that is we're gonna have asbestos in those classrooms.
There will be.
In the
yeah.
gym.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, some of that, I'm gonna say a third party will come in and abate that or remove those hazardous materials. And then, yeah, Jordan, to your point is, yeah, that's part of the reason of let's leave that an alternate to see how things shake out. And yeah, if there's an opportunity for some more local participation there, yeah, we're all about that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Spiritus.
What I do think is interesting is the market is pretty clear on what the value of that is. We've gotten pretty good numbers across the board that are close, which is what you want. So we know that the value of that demolition work is about that. So if we need to move forward with that quickly without going through a bidding process, we have that ability and have good confidence that we're still getting good value on it.
We're also doing the same thing with the electrical side of things on what it's going to take to get that gym back online. We're talking local electrical companies and what that looks like. And
Is there a reason that Spiritus is so high on their work, alternate number one there?
None that we've been able to find.
Okay.
Part of this could be a breakout cost.
Yeah.
Part of it could be.
And the body is still there. So.
That's right.
Hey Barry, this is Greg. Can I ask a question?
Hi, Greg.
So the 27,400 for the terracotta, that's not in the 875, right?
That is included in the 875.
Oh, okay, good. And then the turn down the 58,000 for demoing the south end, that can happen after the vote in August. Correct? Still fit
Yes.
that schedule? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. That alternate should be exercised when you have clarity on what the build back is gonna look like.
And your recommendation is Spiritus.
Correct.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, so at this point, we'd be looking for a recommended motion to move forward with Spiritas.
I have a question about comparing the Spiritas to the G&G. How are they? I mean, by my math, the G&G, if you take out the dirt work, they would be cheaper for those three options. But I don't really understand what you got in the orange there, how that adds.
Yeah, those are, because they did not provide a cost to do the things that are in orange, like the taking care of the penetrations and then the MEP cut cap make safe. We had to include costs to cover those to make that scope whole. So one thing with the alternates is, unless you're planning to bid those scopes out separately, it's risky to pull those numbers out separately and analyze that, because you wind up with a little bit of some additional cost if you end up doing that, because there is places where one guy leaves it, where does the other guy pick it up, and is there clarity on what that is? There's risk to separating those out.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal for the demolition of the existing fire damage building in the weight room area from Spiritus Worldwide in the amount of $875,750, with alternate one for earthwork, I want to call it dirt work, for $110,500.
Correct.
Alternate two with the demo on the south end of $57,750, and alternate three with the selective demo of $37,850.
I second it.
Got a motion made, and a second, to accept the bids and alternate from Spiritus Worldwide. All in favor? All opposed? The next one, Kim, you want that one
Tear
too?
it down.
They're down. Okay, so the next,
Consultant?
yeah, you want to take that one?
No, sorry, I was already on the page, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the next recommended motion here is to accept the consulting services agreement for the environmental monitoring during demolition activities from Terracon. Let me explain this one a little bit. They provided what we're calling a unit cost to do this work. So it is based on a daily or a weekly rate. And the $40,000 that you saw in the bid leveling is an allowance based on a math equation over a certain period of time. So our recommendation here is to move forward with the unit cost, and then we need to work with the demolition contractor and Terracon to figure out what that exact duration is, what the exact scope is for them to do that monitoring. So once that's known, that can potentially be converted to a not to exceed price with them, but knowing that we need to live within that kind of $40,000 designated allowance is the approach there. So at this point, this recommendation would be to move forward with them based on a unit price agreement, kind of a pay-as-you-go time and materials type proposal with them.
That's with Paradigm.
This would be with Terracon.
You said it's not to exceed $40,000,
That's the allowance that's been included in the bid leveling. That needs some refinement.
Plus or minus in there somewhere.
Yeah, that needs some refinement to determine what's going to be required once the scope is really dialed in between the demo contractor and Terracon.
That's something that we have to have no matter what at this point. Because that's that monitoring. aspect.
Correct.
And that's not to exceed 40,000.
What I think we need to do is approve the unit price proposal, and apologize, we don't have that included. They made that out to McCown Gordon instead of the school district. So we have them revising who that's going to. In fact, I think that was included in the packet that we sent you last week. There should be included in there somewhere. Was their proposal. But again, theirs was based on a unit price, and then we'll work to determine what exactly that not to exceed price is, but know that we targeted $40,000 as the amount that would suffice to take
Did
care
you
of that.
resend that to me? I don't know if I forwarded it.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Did you get it? Okay.
Okay.
What was the original amount the insurance company allotted for demolition?
$750. That's, we've already talked, they're gonna, like the demo of the buffer area, I don't think we can really argue about that because we chose,
Sure.
but they're gonna break that out so we can attempt to go get more from the insurance.
Will that adjust how the environmental monitoring comes into play as well? Well, because there was an air quality test done in the gym, right? Originally saying that it was it acceptable or non-acceptable, or?
I don't know that ever got in anywhere.
I don't remember one. Do you?
No.
I know they did an air sampling test, I
Did
just
they?
don't remember. Yeah, there was one form some time ago, I don't remember. But I'm just asking if, since, I mean, it's unforeseen, I guess, in some levels, but to be able to be certified to go back into it, just curious, doesn't hurt to ask.
You're saying an air test was done?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
There was a test on the tiles to see if they had asbestos in them.
I believe they did an air sampling too. If we can go back and look.
I thought they did one in the gym.
Because it has to be done.
Let me go back and look.
Before somebody
That's what dictated that we couldn't just have any,
occupy it.
yeah.
I'm just asking if that amount is included in our settlement, or how's that?
No, I don't. Well, they're saying everything to demo it. It was basically, I don't know how much of it had. He's gonna say it was all inclusive, I guess. That's the best way to say it. He's gonna say that they had the cost to keep the buffer zone up, like the temporary wall and things like that as well. If we had kept the buffer area.
Sure, but there's still the abatement in the gymnasium to bring it up to
Oh, yeah.
code or whatever.
He's gonna say that's in what the scope of the total amount. The 8.5 that
Part
we
of the
got
bill
from the
back.
insurance. That's what they're gonna say.
Okay.
That's gonna be an argument to the end.
It's the word insurance.
So what percentage more is this roughly, and is everything going to kind of have this trend right now? I mean, just asking curiosity. Like, this is significant, I'd say significantly more than what the estimation was at the time. Is everything else going to be a fair amount more? Just a question. Does that make sense?
So I think in regards to the demolition package by itself, this was a different approach. You can even see that in the numbers that G&G provided, because they bid the previous package and they bid this one, and their number was higher because it had a different set of requirements. So to some regard, we're not able to compare apples to apples because the scope is not different, or is not the same, excuse me. So that's where I think it's a little bit, we're just looking at things a little bit differently and making sure that the district's risk is covered appropriately in this particular case.
I would say too, on the total insurance, the higher that number, and I'm separating out the demo's separate, but the higher that total amount is gonna hurt us on the co-insurance. That proration.
Say that again, please.
So the total, like, they came in at 22.9 or whatever they came in at, which created our co-insurance penalty on what we were insured for. If that 22.9 number goes up, then that proration is going to be a higher percentage, and so that's going to go higher penalty on our insurance.
Okay, questions? Any more discussion?
If that penalty goes higher, does that mean we have to pay back money?
I don't know.
Be interesting.
But the demo was a different deal, isn't it? Demo was
Demo was completely separate.
taking in.
No, the demo is completely separate from that part of it. Where we'd have to argue is the main building costs higher to demo.
Yeah.
Than what they gave us.
So back to the recommended motion. This would be to accept the proposal from Terracon for the unit price agreement. Again, they need to revise that to make that out. So we'll capture that moving forward.
And the unit cost was like day or week, what?
There's portions of that are a daily rate, portions of that are a weekly rate. Okay. So they'll have that condensed down and clarified within their proposal. I think that wasn't included, that cost breakout was included in the proposal that was sent.
That's not to exceed how much?
At this point, we would just be buying a daily or a weekly rate based on their rate sheet, and then that will get turned into a not to exceed price based on the scope between how many days that the demo contractor is actually doing work that needs the monitoring versus when they don't. So
do you have a guesstimate of how many days that would be that they're going to be required?
So the $40,000 is based on some loose conversation at this point. So I'm hesitant to call it a not to exceed price because that hasn't been committed by Terracon at this point. And I think there's some refinement that needs to happen around that.
What's their, okay. I just struggle getting excited about open-ended amounts. I guess is my reservation.
Yeah. You're asking us to approve something we don't even know what the price is. An idea or?
Can you start with the 40,000?
How many
And then
days does
come
that
back.
cover, and then? I don't know how you break it down.
Let me pull up their proposal real quick and.
Kelly.
Oh, there it is. God. It's been that kind of a day.
Are we actively keeping a ledger or a Excel sheet of what we've approved that comes out of the settlement amount?
We haven't had anything yet that's come out of the settlement.
Are we preparing to do that?
You can. Emily has a worksheet that have it broken down by the time element and like the BPP. Those.
Sorry guys, we're gonna pull up here.
Is that Terracon the only ones that do this, or did you talk to several?
We got 3 bids for it. Terracon, ISI, and Paradigm. So I did this originally per day. That, what's that per, gives, what's the change? 4,500 per month, no, 45. Yeah, this is what's a little bit challenging with it is because they have a daily rate, a weekly rate for mobilization, and then some hourly rates based on reporting. So condensing it down to a total daily rate is
that how everybody else bidded it
you
too?
kind of need to see it. Yeah.
Everybody else just sent daily, weekly,
Correct.
hourly rates as well.
And this was, we had a late change in our presentation, so this may not have gotten distributed out to the group, so we'll make sure that this gets captured. When is the next board meeting?
We're gonna have to have one next week.
Next week.
21st?
Did you say next week?
That's we're gonna have to have one probably earlier next week.
Okay.
I'll go back and get this information to you.
We'll just clarify this a little bit
Next week?
before we ask that.
I mean, what are our options? Not do it,
Yeah,
and what are we out if we, or what are we?
it's essentially documentation saying that everybody's following all the regulations they're supposed to be and that no hazardous materials leaving your site at the end of the day.
Is this one that we get a cost officer next week?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate is for us to go clarify this with the demo contractor and bring back a more firm total value for it.
Were they high end, low end of the 3, or is it kind of with the variables in the cost as well?
I recall 3 being very close together from a daily, weekly rate. Because of the significance that this company, the service that they provide and the documentation, this is one that we felt like it was worth moving forward with Terracom because they have the appropriate experience and knowledge to do so.
Okay.
And we can do a summary of those bids as well to give you guys confidence that those three are moving forward together.
Next week, good, Matt?
That's fine.
Revisit this, everybody?
Yeah, wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jerry?
Monday or Tuesday's gonna be best. I have graduation stuff Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this week.
Do you,
Okay, let's do that next week. What else? Where are we at, sir?
if that needs to wait until the following week, that can happen as well. Whenever your regularly scheduled May. board
Whenever
meeting
you're
is.
getting ready, let's get it going.
Okay.
Let's keep pushing things through.
I think, yeah.
Be willing to
That's
leave
the
like
line.
2 of them on there to compare,
Put them all in there.
just so we can, I
We'll
mean,
do the same thing we did with the.
sorry to
Yeah.
be complicated.
No,
Thank you.
that was an oversight on our part. We should have that included.
If you guys get ready, next week's fine.
Yeah.
Okay?
That was all we had for our recommendations. We included these graphics in here as a carryover from the last one in case there were any
Yep.
questions on that. So that's what we have. We will get to work with Spiritas and get them marching forward. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything else from Cam Gordon? We're good? Okay. We did the schedule, we did the
Yeah, we need to
demolition,
go down to C.
going to go to 233, section C, bond question.
45 minutes.
Oh, we gotta leave?
We have FFA dinner.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, we'll get through this.
Okay, so, I had one of our board members asked that we reopen or at least have a discussion about the bond question. About the different approaches for that. The last meeting, we approved the moving forward with the K-12 option or question. So, Terry, do you want to speak to that?
I asked Eric to put this on the agenda again. I went back and I reviewed the surveys from January and the last survey. And looking at it, I got a little bit concerned. We got 1,544 voters, active voters in the 105 district. We had about a 20% or so return on the questionnaire of the survey. I don't want to, I got to thinking, are we disenfranchising a large percentage of voters by only putting one option onto the ballot? The other aspect of it, I'm looking at, if we put option 2 on the ballot, then come August, the question is resolved, everyone had the opportunity to express their judgment and opinion. We wouldn't have to worry about a no vote being predominant in August and leaving us hanging to have to go back to another election in November. There's a lot of questions that still haven't been answered. The mill levy may be subject that's been used to project out the cost to the taxpayers may go up. Now, what is that gonna do to the opinion of the voters? I see no reason, I mean, I want everybody to have an opportunity to vote and express their judgment. My opinion is immaterial. It's the voters of this county that's gonna decide one way or another. I'm gonna end it at that. When you got taxes going up 15, 20%, and then we increase the mill levy, I think that's gonna create issues too. If the majority of the voters in this county want a K through 12, I have no problem with that. I have no problem if they want a 7 through 12. When it comes to the taxes, you gotta look at the average income in the household income countywide. And, there's a lot of people that won't impact them no matter what the increase in taxes would be. But there's a whole hell of a lot that will be impacted by, especially with, appraised values going up. Just looking at the 24 mills, I mean, my house is valued at $133,000. That's a $375 increase in taxes. I got a $6,000 or $7,000 increase in appraised value, which is a hell of a lot less than the 20% that, 20,000 that a number of people got. I just think that people, the two options that's been on the survey should be on the ballot and let the people make the decision. Give them an opportunity. And, I felt like I had to express my opinion on that. I don't know what the other board members' opinions are. And I'll leave it at that. So if anybody else got anything or any opinion, want to express it, so be it.
I'd like to see both questions on the ballot.
We could shorten up this conversation a whole hell of a lot, Mr. President. I'm gonna make a motion that we put both options on the ballot, no questions, just the two options on it was on the survey, a K through 12 and a 7 through 12.
I'll second that.
So, can you do that? Can you answer yes to both then?
No, you have to choose one.
I don't know that you can do I don't think you can do the bond or the questions like that. If
You have to do the question so that you approve one and then you approve the other. You cannot approve one or the other. You can't ask people to vote for both. You've got to, and that was the reason it was changed. It was decided last time is because one of the reasons you can't do that is you can't have people vote for both.
If you fill in both circles, then it's a no vote. It's just that vote's taken away.
What do you mean?
You can't vote
So
to.
if you're on that ballot and you fill in both, if you want both or you fill in both circles, right?
Okay.
It's just a no vote. There's nothing.
Well,
It's
isn't
taken
that
out.
where he was talking about, you'd have to do a yes campaign? Yes, you want the 7 through 12, and yes, you want the K through 12. That way, if the K through 12 doesn't pass, then you've still got that
But
7
It can
through
be
12.
done that way.
Yeah.
It can be done the other way of choose one, and if you don't choose one, then your vote is
Well, I
thrown
think
out.
if you tell them to choose one, I think that's where you're gonna start splitting hairs. We need a bond to pass to be able to build a school. So however we have to word that, whether it is, yes, we want 7 through 12, and then they have the option to choose no or yes for the K through 12. You still have a yes vote for that 7 through 12, and no one's held in the lurch here. We'd have a passed bond, and you can go from there.
But you make it so much more complicated.
Not if you,
Yes, it is. I've already had a half dozen people come in and were so excited that we did not do the two questions because of how complicated. we were all confused about it. And
Yes, I was.
people come in after they've seen it in the paper going, what the hell is this? It doesn't make any sense. And
Did
so
people
why,
get confused on the survey?
but we
But
can't
we
do
can't
the
word it
survey
that
question.
way. It's not going to be worded that way
We can't
at
do
all.
that.
The verbiage will be completely different.
People have a chance to vote yes or no on a K-12. And if everybody says no, then we move on and try again.
And what's the timeline on that?
Another 3 months.
3 months.
What's the cost on another election?
It doesn't matter.
Since they're both with a general election and a primary election, there's no additional cost.
Then the other deal is if you vote yes on one, you have to, or yes for the K through 12, you have to vote yes to extend the bond.
You don't think
Another yes.
you can put an explanation on it, vote for one option?
No.
You don't think so? Well, you know, people are intelligent enough that was able to fill out these surveys.
Isn't that how
Will there be
ballots are? Is pick one when you have multiple candidates?
If we were to do it like with
Just
the,
gotta make it simple.
with the either or, you can't do it K-12, 7-12 or no. It has to be.
The two questions, pick one.
I don't. We can't do it that way.
If enough people get upset concerning that they didn't have an option on it, and they vote no on it, they're gonna vote no on the tax, issue also.
If they're against the K-12, they're against the 7-12 because of cost.
You got a motion, you got a second, let's vote
We're in
on it.
discussion though. We're in discussion. Has everybody discussed?
Force a vote without discussion.
Yep.
I mean, technically, you already had a vote last week, so do you have to change that vote?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep. Do we have to rescind one first? Do we have to rescind the vote last week? Make a motion to do that?
Yeah.
So I have a question, might be stupid. So you're saying we have to have how many votes, Terry? Did you say 1,500?
1,544 active voters in one.
Active. So whatever they, I mean, that's just the amount that we have to have.
The last primary election.
I don't understand that.
That's just how many people are active and
Normally
registered.
vote.
Oh, okay.
You know.
So to pass a bond, how many voters do you have to have?
You just have to have the majority
Majority.
of who
Whoever
votes.
shows up that day.
Of whoever shows up that.
So what Greg has said is typically if you take your enrollment, that's pretty much the number that you, I mean, it's a guess, but
Mhm.
it's the number. So in our case, it would be around 360 votes. Yes. You have I mean.
Yeah, the way in districts your size, typically, if you get enough yes votes to represent the number of students you have, you'll pass the bond vote. You do not get a huge turnout. No, you probably get more in a primary, than others, so that might be different.
So technically, now we've gotta do this. We can't vote on something we've already passed. We've got to rescind that vote?
Yeah.
By majority. Would you like to remotion your vote to rescind the last vote on this option?
I'll re-motion. Revive my motion to rescind the motion that we made at the last board meeting. Is that good enough?
Rescind the motion of.
The prior vote?
Prior vote
On the bond question.
on this.
Single bond.
Thank you. That's what
I'll second that.
We have a motion to rescind the last proposal on the election question, and we have a second. All those in favor, God, can't talk. Rescinding the vote from last week. All in favor? All opposed? leave the questions, what are
I don't know that we have to go any further with it.
they? Them? Okay.
At least I don't have to explain this to the people that express their concern.
You're right.
Okay, just part of that, I had, Piper Sandler sent over the scope, or the schedule, excuse me, of what we need to do, and basically, by the 8th, we needed to finalize the scope of the project, and we've done the bond, or the question, this is the question that, has been put forth by him, or by the bond advisors. And so basically, we need to allow them to put together the financing and things like that, so that by the 15th, we can come back for a special meeting and adopt the resolution. Part of that is approving the plan of finance, and with that is the sales tax with Rollins County. It can be, I did talk with Clayton, his name's Clayton Kelly, I did talk to him today. I don't know that we'll have that fully determined by Wednesday, in agreement with 103. They did send back, so we sent a proposal, was that last week or? Yeah, it was last week. And I talked, it was Terry Weiner, Jordan, and I working through it. We sent a proposal to them, and that's in your packet. And basically, it was to split the money 97% to 105 and 3% to 103. They sent back they met on Thursday and they sent back a proposal today. And their proposal is basically to split it up by the amount of land in the district or in the county. That does bring in other school districts. We were advised by Piper Sandler that their land was so small that we really didn't need to engage with them. So they, I guess, Shiloh took it up on themselves
Can
to
you make that bigger?
Yeah, it's in your packet too. So this is what they proposed of breaking out the funds for. This would increase by about 3 mils the property tax. If you look, I believe it's in our proposal, the amount of voters and things like that. Personally, I have a hard time believing that would pass with our voters, you know, that breakdown.
Is it correct to understand that when we use this bond and you call it for the building of a new school, it's not like they can just use it for anything then? They have to use it for specific.
Yeah, the way the sales tax language states.
So they want
Pretty much, they
100%
would need
more
to
than
know
what
what
we
kind of
have.
scope of work they wanna do before the sales tax takes effect. Is the way that I'm looking at it.
And does it have to be
That's
in the? That's a good question, because what if there's a possibility, not that anybody wants it, but they'd have to consolidate with St. Francis or something? Does that the conversation has to go then? Does that get grandfathered into St. Francis then? Or is that something that comes back? I mean, nobody wants any of that, but this is a 30-year note, so that's a conversation that needs to be addressed.
So this is the way it's written.
Well, in 30 years,
So
yeah.
for Rollins County at a rate of 1% for the purpose of financing the construction or remodeling of attendance centers, or other facilities of any school district within the county. That is a question that's been brought up, how, are they allowed to use it in other counties or in other counties? Just, I was looking through from the bond advisor, they said that's really up to the county to decide how to allow that to go forward. We've asked attorneys and things, we don't really get a clear answer on if they're able to use it outside the county, other than the bond advisor, what he put in.
The bottom line is, out of approximately 500,000, they want to split it 350 to 105. They want 150,000 for themselves.
Per year.
150,000 for 30 years. And this is a sales tax of 1% for Rollins County. And they have conducted their numbers by square miles and property tax. Not property tax, but square miles. So they want to divide the sales tax
By how much?
tied to land.
Land area.
I will not support anything like this. That's my opinion.
Nope, they don't have the student base in that land area.
But we can't seem to get an answer. Does the money, can it be used outside of the county? Does it have to be a specific use denoted on the resolution? I mean, we can't get an answer from the attorneys on that.
No, and that's what I was saying was,
To me, it'd be silly to allow them to use the money outside of our county.
You're going through our county attorney?
yeah, it's been asked through them, and then it's been asked through
Who else?
the bond advisor. That's the clearest answer I've gotten through that. I think it gets complicated to do it by the amount of money that's been earned. So the reason for that, I'll do it up here so we can see it. So Atwood generates about 30%. Herndon and McDonald generate about 3%. Okay.
Isn't that on this?
Yeah, it's on our letter that we sent. And then so Herndon is 2.78%. Atwood is 30.23%, and McDonald is 3.13%. The rest of it is generated within the county, which is 63.8. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. 63.87%. And there's no way to determine that number between what school district. I think I've asked everybody I can multiple times. And so
at the very least, we should be arguing over that 63% number of how much they should get of that.
Yeah, right. And so the other
not
thought,
the full amount.
Right.
State that again.
So, I don't want it to necessarily be this number, but at the very least, the number we should be arguing over of what they should get should not be out of the 525,000. It should be out of the 64% of the remaining in the county.
That's what I was figuring.
So the other thought is to do it like a next proposal, I guess, by student count. So They sent me some numbers, but they prorate the students that live in or in 103 but attend 105. They still claim those kids, which I think is ridiculous.
Wait, say it again?
That's the nicest way I can say it.
So they're claiming my kid.
Yes.
They're taking the ones from Rollins County,
Yeah.
even though.
So
So how many of them do we have
Who
from?
votes on what amounts goes to where anyway?
Come here.
Who has the final say?
Do they really want to?
the county commissioners.
When taxes are distributed, who makes that decision?
It's really the county. The county asked us to come up to it with an agreement with them.
Have they been involved in any of these discussions?
No, they told us to do it. I mean,
Lincoln said
I
he was
said
on
figure it
the
out.
water.
when he was here last time, Lincoln, I asked him, "Do you guys want to be involved?" And he said, "No, you guys."
I mean, that might be some next steps, but
I'm just
at
curious.
this point, it was the commissioners wanted 105 and 103 to try to come together and agree on a number. And if we can agree on a number, then that makes their job obviously easy. If we can't agree on a number, then it's going to be amongst them, I guess, to fight it out of what that number is.
So anyways, this is what their superintendent sent me. I think the better way is by those who attend. As far as we can tell, and I'm not going to hold that completely true, but there doesn't seem to be any students who live in these school districts in our county. But if I'm wrong, I do apologize. That's but from the best guesses, or from the best numbers we've received, we are told that 21 kids from Rollins County go to Cheyenne, and then we have an enrollment of 360 this year, and we have 4 that actually live outside the county. So I'm probably too nice, but I took those off. And so that's where I get these numbers, and so it's around a 6%, or I guess it's really 5.5%, 94.5% split.
Can we deduct what they get from the state then? If they're claiming them?
So you're talking about giving them 6%.
Yeah, that's, and I feel like this is a very good argument.
Which would be 30, give or take 32,000.
I think student count's a better way to do it, so.
I mean, currently, with the 21 students or how many, I don't know, that they're trying to claim, 18, 20, I don't know.
18.
They get the county's, or the personal sales tax from all those families anyway, every year. So now
They get the
they're
per
trying to
student,
Yeah.
per student.
So any of they already get that.
Can we put together for that resolution?
That's a question I'd have to ask.
We've got, how many kids do they have? I can't read that.
It's 21, and we have 18 from that area, or from that district.
Let's see.
There will be more people affected negatively by them taking more than if they take less. I mean, and it'll even hurt some of their people. They've got guys that own land on both sides of the line, so every dollar they take just increases their property tax in the 105 district that much more. Yes.
So it would be my recommendation to send it over to them by student count, the next proposal.
I would disagree. Go that high.
And that would be the 6%.
Yeah, it's 5.6 and 94.4.
So you're taking their 150, cutting that down by, to 30?
But the first offer was
It's gonna be 15.
15,000.
maybe 15. But it's also not clear, can they take the money and spend it in Bird City, or do they have to spend the money in McDonald?
I get that. I'm laughing over the irony that we don't even have it 100% approved and we're arguing over dollar amounts.
Yeah.
That's what I laughed about, to be honest. I mean, it might not even be that amount. Maybe it'll be more.
Yeah, this is all percentage.
Hypothetical numbers.
What do you think about 5.6?
There's 280 voters in Wallace County in the 103 district. Strike that from 1,544. The sales tax, we don't need them to pass the sales tax.
Correct.
So I mean, I think, that they're at our mercy as far as what we're willing to give them.
Yeah,
And I think 3% is
more than fair.
more than fair.
Do we have to come to an agreement for the auction?
The bond.
No, we can pass a resolution for it and keep working on it. It just makes it harder, to know the exact financing and things like that. I
Well,
mean,
the way I'm reading it, anyway, in this thing, Senate Bill 410, and I may be reading it wrong, says the respective taxes would expire upon their proceeds being sufficient to pay all costs authorized in financing the cost of the proposed described above. So, does that mean we can just keep adding and adding and adding to it?
like projects, you mean?
Yeah, that's because that's the way that reads to me.
What?
So, or does that mean that they have to come up with a scope of work that they want to do, and we have to come up with a scope of work that we want to do before?
I think it's been with the understanding that through our project.
That's what I was thinking too.
Isn't that what Adam Smith had said?
Yeah.
Right.
We call
So
it
when the bond
new
is-
projects, new school construction, and we leave it at that.
New construction.
Because then that was, the argument was made, well, can't you make it for education or school, whatever, and that's where we got to, no, cause then it opens it up to where it's not the purpose of it.
I don't think that they can use it for like general fund. That wouldn't make sense at all because the state, that would just be taking money that the state's paying them. The LOB is basically the same part of it, and it's not really necessarily building costs, and they're limited by whatever their percentage is. So to me, it would be increasing their capital outlay.
How much time we got, Megan?
10 minutes.
Or we can go on without an agreement.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
Everybody will table this. Mark,
Should be
sir.
here. Oh, if I was there.
I gave you what I thought was right.
Go back with it.
Oh, yeah.
That's 30,000. I don't know. 6%.
I think we definitely need to clarify where the money can be spent. If it can be spent in Bird City, or does it have to be spent in Rollins County? And then what it can be spent on as,
Do you get that dictation though? Because I think
No.
we can state what, what the intent was, like Adam had talked about that day, but you can't, if it's
Tell
one
them
of
what.
threes, yeah.
I think all you can really, I mean, it says in the law for school buildings. So that's what I don't think we can dictate beyond.
They could say that's why I asked if you say 103 and they end up having to merge, where do those funds go? So that needs to be
That was one thing in our proposal was to have it for 5 years. And we can certainly add, if 103 closes, then that agreement's void, or those dollars go to 105 until.
We got. Have we ever figured out how many commissioners it takes to?
Everybody said majority.
So if we don't come up with it, say commissioners have to come up with it, or commissioners committee, or you know how that proceeds?
I'm sorry. From what I can tell, it's by the commissioners, but I can get that clarified as well.
Does anybody wanna do anything on this topic, matter, subject? Table it?
We can get it till next week.
I think we need to let the negotiators negotiate.
We got nothing to negotiate.
No. I agree.
this isn't something dire, we can table it till next.
Yep. I've lost my agenda, where we at?
We're on adjournment. We've already done that.
Terry.
All right, that leaves us to Terry.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second? There's a second, all in favor? All opposed?
When's our next one?
Yeah.
Too late, we already closed out.
Just trying to get
Probably the 15th.
15.
What time?
We do 5:30. That works for you. We have to pass the resolution by the 15th.